This is the Lydian spin with the Lydia lunch sounding a little bit like Barry White and Timothy Dahl after our big excursion to Oakland, Los Angeles, and Mexico City, which is where I got this voice.
Oh yeah.
Tim.
How you doing? Feeling a little fatigued. I got in after midnight at JFK, and then after the bags, and then dropping Kevin off. I didn't go to bed till 3 in the morning. So it was,
Yeah. But
yes, it was an incredible time. The West Coast, Mexico. I loved it.
having John Waters introduce retrovirus was certainly a treat at the Mosswood Park event.
Absolutely, he's an incredible person, as we know. Did you hear about his that story yesterday where now that Angela Lansbury
I did.
Dead, he claims he saw her at like a dungeon sex club back in the 80s.
Hellfire Club. Yeah, of course. Everybody went there. Even her.
Yeah, that was a peak of Murder, She Wrote. So that was pretty brave of her.
Yeah, we had that. Then LA, we played with Kid Congo, and I was at an event with him this week. It was the first event he's having for his new book, which just came out, some new kind of kicks. So we were in conversation. That was fun. And then we went off, but in between that, we went to Mexico City for some days.
Oh, yeah. And that was incredible. I had a recording in another show as well there, which I thought was incredible. But our show, which was hosted by, I don't know, a university. I don't know the
UNAM, and it was great because it was like people from 8 years old to 80, all with black hair.
And the thing about open air ones is usually the sound you don't know, and it's you don't know what you're going to hear. But the sound was great. The show was great. I mean, the only thing I struggled with a little bit was the altitude, but you manage.
I'm struggling still with the smoggy voice.
Yeah, I mean the air quality and the altitude is a challenge.
I can do 20 shows in a row and not sound this baritone. And then I went to a convent to see with Kay Shea, the drummer now for Retrovirus, to see some mummies. So I feel like I might have also inhaled some mummy dust.
Well, I went to so I did do tourist stuff that I usually don't do on the road. So I went to the Pyramid of the Sun, and the pyramid, which is about an hour outside the city. Spectacular. It's the biggest pyramid in the Western Hemisphere, maybe the second biggest in the world.
Wow.
It's really dramatic. And then I also went to the Anthropology Museum, so I hit a bunch of stuff.
I hear that's supposed to be amazing. I wish I would have had time to hit that. It's supposed to be. I mean, Mexico City has the most museums of any city in the world. So if you can find a breathing machine.
What was interesting about the Pyramid of the Sun, because it's kind of like it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's there's like a little ticket booth that's kind of seems pretty primitive. They take a card. Museum of Anthropology takes a card. Museum of Modern Art, cash only. Made no sense.
Corruption is rife.
I don't know what was going on there.
Corruption is rife. What can we say? But wait, didn't you go to wrestling as well?
I did.
Oh well, come on, spill the drink.
That was spectacular, and I mean, what do you say? It was very dramatic. Tons of choreography, midgets, masks, women, flips. I mean, as you say, wrestling is real. It's it's staged. This wrestling, it's staged, it's choreographed, but that shit's real. That doesn't look like it doesn't hurt or anything like that.
Timothy Seymour Dahl, you have not yet seen me in my lucha libre mask, but we have wrestled a few times.
Correct.
And I don't mean to brag, but they were too short. The matches between us were too short, but I play dirty.
Well, yeah, you knew how to end those pretty quickly.
Well, as a child, my father taught me a few things, but mainly never give up and go below the belt.
Well,
so, pretty good.
I don't usually give up, but the below the belt definitely makes you surrender pretty quickly.
Well, and the thing is, the time we were wrestling and that happened, I didn't even mean to do it. Imagine if I did.
No, yeah, that was
accidental.
Collateral damage.
We still, there's very few people that really, men that want to actually grapple with me. Eugene Robinson being one. I know he can kick my ass, but I also know his weak spots. What are you gonna do?
Good. It's good to know. Good to know.
Gotta know where the soft spots are.
Oh my
All right.
God.
Speaking about something painful.
Yes.
Now, I've had every few years I wake up and I feel like my eye's been cut with a razor. And I don't know if it's just a straight eyelash. I mean, it's not a cat hair. I don't have cats. But I mean, even once on tour, I had to be Sebastian Grappo had to take me to the eye doctor. Nothing
I
in there.
remember that. Yeah.
Oh gosh. But anyway, this is like anybody that's ever had a stray mascara eyelash in their eye overnight. This is a horror story. Surgeons have removed 27 contact lenses from the eye of a 67-year-old woman who had gone to the Solhul Hospital for routine cataract surgery. Quote unquote, a bluish foreign body turned out to be a hard mass of 17 lenses stuck together with mucus.
God.
And 10 more that were found under further examination. Now, she had worn disposable lenses for 35 years and had not complained of any irritation. But of course, after they removed them, she said her eye felt a bit more comfortable. Now, how do you forget? They're called disposable. Now, 17 of the contact lenses were stuck together. Now, I know they're thin, but that's just horrible.
I think she's just like got drunk and just fell asleep and forgot about them, or
for 35 years.
Well, hey, listen, you claimed you taught James Chance how to brush his teeth and spit out properly. I mean, there are products that people have to use that maybe they just don't know how to use them properly.
Well, when contacts, and people do, there is a tendency for a contact to occasionally get, hidden in the eye, but they're normally folded up under the top lid, and they can't really go any further than that because they're like a pocket in the eye. But anyway, this is just
maybe dementia. I mean, that makes no fucking sense.
I mean, 35 years. The thing is, you're not supposed to wear, I don't wear contacts. You're not supposed to wear them for more than 16 hours a day. Take them out. Look, the inherent stupidity of people never amazes me anymore. I'm used to it.
So is toxic shock a possibility with such things?
Well, it could be, but I mean, she's.
Did you hear at this Texas Walmart? They found an urn with someone's human ashes in it at the fabrics and crafts section.
Damn.
Well, they don't know if someone just put it there.
I mean, I have to say, I don't think I've ever walked into a Walmart, but now there's a reason to go.
Well, yeah, but who walks in? I think it must have been intentional. Of course, all these like Texas Christians and stuff are like, that's heartbreaking. They probably just left it there by accident. Who walks around?
Hey, mom,
Mom,
you're dead. You shop too much at Walmart. I'm leaving you there. I don't know.
maybe the mom worshipped Walmart, and maybe whoever had them, the daughter, son, thought maybe that was the proper burial site. That's what I'm going to believe.
I have no idea. But I mean, if you want to hear about something really ridiculous, and who doesn't? I mean, this just goes to prove that. Now, I don't know what you use as an ideal masturbatory assistant. We all have our little fantasies. I don't have time to go into mine. It would take up more than one podcast. But this one really kind of impressed me. A home inspector in Oakland County, Michigan, has been convicted of aggravated indecent exposure after a security camera showed him masturbating with a Tickle Me Elmo doll while at a client's home. What? Kevin Wayne Van Leuven of Clarkston was convicted Wednesday during a one-day trial, but acquitted on another charge of malicious destruction of property. I guess you can wash your Tickle Me Elmos. Anyway, he was arrested while doing a home inspection, and one of the client's bedroom, they had like a nanny cam, and the owner was notified that he was in the nursery. When they pulled up the webcam alert, they saw him masturbating before picking up an Elmo doll off the floor and pleasuring himself with the doll.
Well, it does vibrate. Tickle Me Elmo, it vibrates and giggles. Everything about the Elmo character, there's some kind of sex scandal that surrounds us. I mean, the guy that did the voice, I don't know if he.
Well, the mom who found the nanny cam, she was, I just went blank. My husband was staring at me from across the room and was like, "What's wrong?" He asked me repeatedly. I couldn't even articulate what I was seeing. So Van Leuven was inspecting the house, When Oakland County investigators arrived at the scene, he claimed that he had moved the doll to inspect an electrical outlet, but confessed after learning about the camera in the nursery. The responding officer also reported that Van Leuven admitted to placing his penis in Elmo's mouth. What?
Well, it turns out "tickle me Elmo" is not a proper noun. It's a command, like in an Irish way. Tickle me Elmo.
Well, and although, and now I know what to say to you next time you walk up my stairs. Although, indeed, you know what? I'm not ticklish at all, Tim.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I guess I didn't know that, but now that I think about
it was another lesson my father trained me, and I am tickle me till I scream, and now I'm not ticklish. So anyway, although indecent exposure is a misdemeanor in Michigan, Van Leuven faces up to 2 years in prison and a $2,000 fine when he's sentenced in December. I wonder how much a Tickle Me Elmo doll actually costs.
Well, it was kind of like Cabbage Patch Kids. I think one or two Christmases there was like a shortage, and like moms were attacking each other at like Walmarts to get them. When I was at college when that thing came out, and this kid, this guy, or I don't know, this guy's girlfriend, they had a rabbit in a rabbit cage in their dorm room, and her boyfriend, he would laugh. He would check this out, and he would throw the tickle me Elmo. I don't know why they even had one. Maybe she was giving it as a gift, or maybe she had one. I don't know. But he would throw it in the rabbit cage, and the thing would vibrate, and the rabbit would just pounce it and start fucking the shit out of the thing. I mean, I think there's some kind of sexual radiation and of course, the guy who invented it or did the voice of Tickle Me Elmo had to resign from Sesame Street because he had affairs with teenage boys. I mean,
well, what is sex without a vibrator? That's what I always say. But I mean, in a story even more disgusting and disturbing, a woman who has worked at a family medical practice for 20 years and used to get water from the employee water dispenser, according to authorities in Texas, recently began bringing in her own bottles because she noticed the water had a funny taste and smell to it. A few days after starting to bring in her own 16-ounce water bottle, the worker noticed her water also had a horrible smell. Unable to figure out what might have caused the odor, she threw the bottle away, bought a new one. So a few weeks later, when a coworker volunteered to make coffee, the woman said, "Well, use my own water to avoid the sour smell," but then noticed the liquid inside that bottle was also yellow. She recalled to the Houston police, you're going to Texas soon, that it smelled like pee. Now, what happened was one of the janitors there was washing his penis in her water bottle and gave her herpes simplex virus 1 and chlamydia. He was charged with aggravated assault, bodily injury, with a deadly weapon. So he actually was sticking his filthy, infected penis into her water bottle, swishing it around, and causing her to contact incurable STDs.
Well, I mean, sounds like the janitor's getting a lot of action. I mean, you think? I mean, how did he get all these STDs? I guess he's
paying for it, probably.
Yeah, I would assume so. But
again,
maybe he was a hunk.
No, he wasn't. Caught on nanny cam once more. I'm telling you, nanny cams. I'm going to install one on the back of my head.
Well, do people actually want nanny cams? I mean, it seems like this kind of behavior is happening quite a bit, and you want to actually see it. Well, yeah.
Is it better? Is it better to see it or not see it? Once you see it or know about it, you can't unsee it. Cocksucking, filthy motherfucking pervert.
Oh my god. Well, where do I go from there?
Well, there's really not too far to go from there. Let's face facts.
Yeah. I'm a little brain dead today, anyways. But
people are strange.
They are, and now people are strange. I'm okay with that, but just don't piss them. Don't wash your dick in my water bottle. That's a decent request, I think, right?
I absolutely agree. Look, go wash your dick in a mud puddle, you goddamn filthy creep. I thought I was a creep till I read that story. My God. I mean,
have you ever drank piss before by accident? or intentionally, or
Tim,
we
Tim,
edited that out. I don't know why.
Tim.
Yes.
If I was to do that, it would be my own purified sacred waters, and I would charge myself to do it. Now, this is the Lydia Spin with Lydia Lunch Tyndall, and our special guest today is Lawrence Lewis. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 171. Somebody I've known for 2/3, 3/4 of my life, Lawrence T. Lewis, who has more than 20 years of film production experience. He is, as he likes to say, an obsessive problem solver. I'm still waiting for him to solve some of my problems, but he's done hundreds of national broadcast commercials, feature films, experiential live events, digital media, creative content. Is there anything you haven't done? Branded films, and of course, one of my favorite things that you do is your Alone experience, which is a Halloween experiential. I don't even know what to say beyond that. Is that it's creepy as hell. And here's Lawrence Lewis. Hi.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Lawrence.
Yeah, good to see you, Tim.
Let's start at the beginning. You approached me as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, where do we begin? I was always a little maker. I always wanted to make something. I always wanted to put on a show. I started like at the age of 8 with my parents, Super 8 film camera, making little film clips and trying to put something together. And that's just kind of what my brain always drove me to do. So as soon as I learned video production in high school and in some extracurricular classes that I took, I wanted to put on my own show. I wanted to create a show. And I got this job at a local cable company, worked for them.
At 17.
At 17, yeah. It was an internship. And I just said, hey, you guys have this channel. It was a local access channel, not public access, local access channel that they weren't using except for a nightly newscast that I worked on. I said, can I put on my own show? I want to feature artists, musicians, bands, theater performers, painters, whatever. And they said, yes, go ahead. No one watches this channel anyways.
So amazing.
Yeah. And I always leaned towards the more obscure. So I just went through my record collection and started calling labels saying, hey, I want to interview this artist. I want to interview this artist. It took a while to track you down, but eventually it led to, I think, Susan Martin giving me your phone number and said, just call her directly. And I did. And we've been friends ever since.
And you were out of Orange County at that time.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Born in
Cerritos,
Los Angeles, lived in Long Beach, Orange County, and of course, LA.
So what, did you call me?
I did, yeah.
And then
this was before social media. This was before all the things. So
this was like, what year was this?
Would have been like 89.
That
89,
late? Really?
80, no, I guess 80, 88, yeah.
All right, so you call me. I don't even know where I was living at the time, but I was obviously doing some shows in LA.
Yeah, Bogarts in Long Beach.
Were you living in Long Beach at the time?
I don't think I was, or I was part-time. I don't know.
So was that a solo show, or because you when you approached me, but then you filmed a lot of my early spoken word?
Yeah, so I don't remember the chronology of it all, but I know it was spoken word back then, and it was in that side little cabaret space that they used to have.
You film me with Wanda Coleman, me with Exene.
Yeah.
Me and some of your documentation was featured in The War's Never Over.
Yeah.
Conspiracy of Women speech.
Conspiracy of Women. That was great. Yeah.
Were you a fan of some of the other weirdo cable access programs in the LA area, like New Wave Theater or any of that stuff?
Yeah, New Wave Theater, I was a bit too young to actually see that on the air, but I collected some of their tapes and knew of that show, but a little bit more in hindsight. I really wasn't, I think, I guess the best way to describe it is later in life, I learned that I'd rather throw the party than be at the party. So I was never really like kind of chasing. I was never like, I like this. I want to do that. I was just kind of finding my own way and finding my own things that drew my attention. And it was always something a little bit more obscure. But no, I didn't really have that big library of knowledge of all these things that came before me. I kind of discovered it along the way.
Who else were you filming at that time, Lawrence? Like, who else did you approach and said yes, or who also said no?
It really just depended. I was basically calling record companies and just lying about how many viewers I had and what the show was and see who they would give me.
Right.
I know we did Joe Strummer, we did the Mission UK, we did No Doubt, way before their first MTV interview.
I think you've got some nice blackmail material.
I
Your
do.
library.
I've already transferred it to digital, and it'll be coming out soon. You'll see No Doubt in their early days.
No doubt we will.
No doubt.
So all right. So you're growing your methods with this cable TV. How long did that last? And then what did you do? Because you're a go-getter.
That was probably maybe only a year and a half, maybe 2 at the most. And then I started working in feature films.
How the hell? I mean, look, everybody's dream or nightmare. How did you I just started working in feature.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was the secret?
It's definitely a nightmare looking back. And I really don't know. I just went to a state college, but in order to graduate the film program, you had to take an internship. So I went to this big book that they had in the library of all the internships you're allowed to do. And, it was all just shitty stuff like be a page, be a receptionist at this development house, write coverage on scripts, and just kind of, office work. And then I found one company called Planet Productions, this producer, Donald P. Borchers, who is a little bit of a B movie legend. And he was doing a movie, I think it was Leprechaun 2. It might have been something. It might have been something a little more Skinamax, like with Joan Severance. I can't remember. And it was an internship, and I got on, and it was like working in the office and being on set. And I was like, well, I want to actually physically be there, and that was kind of it. So I worked with him. He did this movie Vamp with Grace Jones.
Wow.
He was pretty cool.
But what's great is that you did, like so many Hollywood stories, you didn't start at the bottom and slowly kept working your way up.
Yeah.
It's
$50 a day.
It's like I started in the the post room or whatever, the mail room.
Mm.
So what about then you worked on Scream 2, right? Did you work on that?
No, Scary Movie 2.
Scary Movie 2.
Which is making fun of Scream, basically, right?
Which was making fun of Scream.
How did that come about? Because were you script supervising then?
No, I was a production supervisor.
What does that mean? What does that even mean to the layman?
It's a little bit of some of these terms are made up in order to skirt some union rules. I was a production coordinator, which basically means I facilitate, I run the production office, which facilitates getting all the equipment there, getting crews together, getting call sheets out and schedules out. And this is all before the internet. So it's all faxing and calling and mailing scripts and kind of just facilitating everything that needed to be done.
And really one of the most important jobs, undervalued and underpaid.
Very.
You really have to be a complete coordinator because you have to be in charge of so many things. And who cares? I never see credits for the production coordinator, but it's one of the most important jobs.
It's a lot. You're the central hub for everything. Your hands are in the middle of everything. You were asking Tim how many hours a day. It's like 16, 18 hours a day.
You're the first
6
one there.
days a week.
You're the first one there, the last one to leave.
You're not thanked but blamed for everything.
Yeah, for sure. And it, the best movie I worked on was Memento.
Wow. Guy Pearce.
Oh,
it's so great. Wait, now who produced that again? Who directed it? I mean,
Christopher Nolan.
Such a fan. That and The Machinist around the same time. Two of my favorite films, just about absolute mania.
Yeah.
Memory and madness.
That was kind of the only feature film that when I read the script, I knew it was going to be amazing. And while working on it, I knew it was something special. Scary Movie 2 came around. I did that. I was on that for like 9 or 10 months. And then it was just Scary Movie 2 and it was out and it was over. And that was the moment when I was like, I'm not really interested in feature films anymore. It's just this, to do it for, even a short amount of time that I did it and just have one film you're proud of. And then you're slaving away 16 hours a day on kind of, sequels.
Somebody else's bullshit. Yeah.
Somebody else's bullshit. So that's when I kind of left that and switched over to commercials, because I knew if I had this skill set, what's the best way to make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time? Back then it was commercials. TV
and if you're working on films that you have no reason to be proud of, I mean, then why not work on commercials where it's shorter and more money?
Exactly.
And is really good on a resume for other things.
Also, feature films are basically a thread of nonstop commercials for the most part. I mean, with all the product placement, I mean, the commercial stuff is. So did you ever work on a hit commercial, where a character just kept on coming back? Did you ever work on one of those things?
I mean, I did a few of the Travelocity, Priceline with William Shatner.
William Shatner, okay, all right.
But by the way, I just saw William Shatner interview yesterday as a book out, and it's about like he went into space, right?
Yeah.
And he said that when he was returning to Earth, he was actually crying because of the damage we're doing. So anyway, it's interesting. William Shatner came up. What a weirdo.
Complicated guy, isn't there?
I mean, the best
there's
version
theories that he killed his wife. There's theories that he's,
oh my God.
Because she was found dead in the bottom of a pool,
Best version of Rocket Man ever, let's face it.
That's good. I actually liked him in the TJ Hooker years where he was really bloated, and Aaron Spelling made him wear these like super tight cop outfits. He's doing like his own stunts, like log rolls and stuff like that. Adrian Samed.
Boston Legal bloated, still bloated after all these years, but it doesn't matter. Rocket Man, all I need to know. So you did some William Shatner commercials. Did you have to actually work with him personally?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Was he hilarious?
I don't know if he's hilarious. He's a clever guy. He's very smart. He's been doing this for years. He's only going to give you 3 takes. If you don't got it, move on. Let's get this done with.
Lawrence, I usually only give you 1 take.
Yeah, that's true. That's all I need.
But then again, I'm the pocket rocket man.
Very true.
Oh, God, I'm a little slow today. Yeah, that took me.
We're both a bit stunted, but all right. Priceline. I mean, when you're making commercials, when you're involved in, and what was your job actually? Were you again managing the whole production, getting everything together? What was it, creative or was it practical? What you were doing?
Mostly practical. When I moved to commercials, I moved over and very quickly moved up to producing. So I produce commercials most of the time, especially in those early years. It's very practical. It's working with the ad agencies and working with the director and kind of overseeing the budget and overseeing the whole production with a production team under me that kind of does all the nitty gritty. Once you kind of develop a rapport with the director, then, if maybe some producers don't, but I am a bit more of a creative producer. I can help them creatively solve some problems and work through some stuff with ad agencies. And
I'd pause right there because you are creative outside of the production management thing. I mean, you are an artist. You do artistic things as well as, I don't know if you saw the article I just sent you about Southwestern Air.
Yes.
Giving everybody a ukulele on their way to Hawaii. You play the ukulele. Your alone experience is a very creative thing. You've done music. So, I mean, it's amazing that somebody who is an artist has been able to then also merge into
let me interject
commercial territory.
Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, part of the freedom is you're not a bitter auteur that ended up in commercial production and you basically didn't have ambitions to be this director. You can come in almost like with a clean slate objective by adding your creative little ingredients without this thing like I wanted to be this or that. It's like coming at it as a clean slate and adding, and then you can work a lot more because of that. Right?
Well, and probably because you had your truly creative output in other things.
Exactly, and I think
I want to just verify that this is a very unique position that you hold because most artists cannot figure out how to make money to support their art. And you did, and you had that knowledge. You and your own website call yourself a nerd, which is how you manage to be in charge of details. Because, I mean, look, I have to be in charge of a lot of details. Tim has to be in charge of a lot of details. A lot of artists, they don't have the capacity.
And
And
I think
you-
that's why you and I connect so well. You know, Lydia, you are a producer as much as you are an artist. You are producing your life as being a lifelong artist, and that takes a different skill that a lot of people don't have. And I did go into features thinking I wanted to be I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist.
Oh,
You know, like Rick Baker and Tom Savini were my
you've never done my makeup.
No, well, I never learned
Tom-
how, because by the time I got in, it was all CGI, and that whole industry, you know, got real small. But going into that and going into the feature film world, and I made a feature film on my credit card in the 90s, alongside of, you know, all the other ones that were happening here in LA, and then going to the other end of that and like trying to sell it and going to these meetings and trying to be schmoozy and meet the right people and meeting all these Hollywood sharks. It was just,
So
I
much
realized
bullshit.
it was not my gig, and those were not my people. And once I learned I had this skill of production, that's where I decided I could capitalize on this. I can make as much money as possible and use that to fund other things, or to just fund a lifestyle where I can be more creative and do things like the Alone experience, or just be in a ukulele orchestra if I wanted to be, you know. And that's kind of where everything became really kind of clear for me about how to run this Hollywood game and not get consumed by it.
Well, in the same way that spoken word has often over the years supported my more, not as if my spoken word isn't obscure, but it has allowed me to support the musical things that nobody else would support as well. So it's kind of the same thing. It's exactly almost my spoken word, a commercial for myself.
Did you like? Did you read Fangoria growing up? I mean, Tom Savini is one of your heroes, and so basically you're like a video store horror movie junkie as a kid.
Kind of, yeah. Here in Los Feliz, there was a store called Mondo Video.
Oh yeah, of course.
On Vermont, I used to go there every week, and Jerry's famous video reruns. You know, that was still in the 90s, but even before that, as a kid, I was obsessed with Friday the 13th and all those things that were coming out of that time. I just started watching on Shudder this documentary series called Queer for Fear. And it analyzes.
I don't know this.
Oh, you got to check it out.
Oh, tell us about it. Queer for Fear. Tell us.
Queer for Fear. It analyzes the horror movie industry and how it all started with, you know, Mary Shelley, who was, you know, a bisexual woman who invented one book, invented sci-fi and horror. And it was unheard of at that time, and how so much of horror is just kind of based on a queer lens of being the outsider, being the monster, or having something inside you that's different than everyone else. And, you know, that stuff's really fascinating. And I've always kind of connected to horror films and just the more obscure in that sense.
I'm just going to give a plug now to the revitalized edition of Kayla Janice's House of Psychotic Women that came out, which is an overview of women in different decades and different countries and how they've been portrayed in horror and also in relation to her life. And it's an absolutely mandatory anthology that kind of is a compendium to what you just said. So Queer as Fear, bookended with Queer for Fear.
Yeah.
Queer for Fear, bookended with House of Psychotic Women. What a double bill.
Yes. Check that out.
So you like the slasher, if you like Friday the 13th, more than, say, like an absurdist like Leprechaun, for instance.
Yeah. I mean, I did work on Leprechaun too.
And it was absurd.
And it was absurd.
And then there's a lot of, how many of those are there? Like 15 or something?
Yeah, there's a bunch of those.
Lawrence, so did your obsession with horror eventually lead you to realizing that, you know, now there is a lot of Halloween experiential things, but then there was a hole in it that maybe you could fill? Yeah,
and I think it kind of came a little bit sideways for us. Us is me and Devin Paulson, who is a fine artist here in LA. And
please tell us exactly what Alone is, because I was I did I think it was me. Was it me and Danita Sparks?
It
performed as a outside of the Alone experience at one of your events. Just give us the whole history of Alone, please, because it's still ongoing.
Yeah. So, you know, Devin and I when we, in hindsight, we look back and we realize we've been not only friends, we've been creative partners for a long time. We've done all kinds of crazy things, from bands to soundscapes and art galleries to just live events and whatnot. And we were very inspired by a lot of things that were going on in the early 90s, especially in downtown LA, which was kind of a ghost town back then. People were putting on these road rallies where you just had to drive around LA and find clues. And there was this artist, Gregor Schneider, who came to LACMA to do this installation that he called Dead House Ur, where he kind of rebuilt in some kind of nightmarish way his childhood home. And that's all it was just a home. But you walk through it, it's maybe a little bit Escher, maybe a little bit haunted house. They put you through by yourself, or maybe we're just two people. They cut a hole into the side building of LACMA to make a new entrance, just to change everything. And that was so simple, so eerie, and just so fascinating. And there's just a lot of things going on in downtown LA at the time. We were having these crazy loft parties. Lydia, you may or may not have been to one of them.
Yeah, you mean the mushroom parties?
Yes.
Fabulous fungi.
Yes. And so we wanted to do something live. We wanted to do something unique. We did just base it around Halloween and kind of like a new style of a haunted house. It grew beyond that, and it decoupled from Halloween because we realized this could happen anywhere at any time. And it's
when was your first when did you first put that on? And then also, I know you've gone to Australia 2 times with it, so you first put it on, when was that? How long ago?
Oh God,
5 years, 7?
10 years,
Wow.
10 years ago. Yeah.
And then when you first started it, would it be every year? Because it's a big production.
It was every year. It was multiple times throughout the year. So it's site specific. It's not tied to Halloween. We decoupled it right away because we realized we could do small shows, we could do big shows. One show's never been repeated because it is site specific.
So what goes on if you enter the Alone House? Just some examples, for instance.
You go through by yourself most of the time. If you go through with people, you will get separated at some point. It's a psychological experience. There's no blood, there's no murders, there's no monsters. It's not that. It's a psychological experience that decouples you from all the things that give you comfort in your life. So, it's all tricks of illusion and discomfort. There are actors in there that portray different moments. We don't like to call it interactive theater. It's kind of immersive theater. That phrase is a little overdone these days. It's hard to define, but
I understand exactly what it is.
Very psychological experience, very theatrical,
as opposed to a cheesy horror haunted house.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Japan?
No.
Because I went to a haunted house there once at a theme park, and the American one, if I can generalize, is all about silence and the surprise, and then you jump out. Yeah. Where in Japan, there's none of that. It's just like an image of a person walking with like hair over their face, and everyone's like screaming. Very different approach. I mean, do you kind of side with the American side, the kind of the anticipation for just the explosion? Or are you kind of more? What do you side with?
We're more on the Japanese side of things.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Because
creepy.
Our process was always to let fear be the byproduct. Our actual, as we grew and developed this concept, we realized that our main intention is actually love. And
yes, sure.
It really is. We do what we call scare hugs, where instead of scaring people, trying to, there is the element of surprise and shock and tension, and all those elements are there, but with a totally different end intention is at the front end of it, which is love. And the language we use in the show, and the underlying subtext, there's always some concept we may or may not reveal to the audience underneath. It usually is a story of love.
Well, Lawrence, let me just cut in and say this. It's always shocking to me how many people want to hug me at the merchandise table. I feel like, and that is again some weird, anybody seeing this who didn't know what it was about would think this is a horror show. But they come for the hugs. I call it the hugging booth. And I understand because at the end, why do we do what we do? Any of us, because there is something that we know we love that we have to express. That's it.
And the Alone Experience audience, our fans, are very much the same way. They feel such an emotional connection to our show. And, you know, we learned that very quickly once we started these shows, that there is something very visceral there about what we were providing. And it was different than what a lot of other shows were doing.
Oh, well, and sometimes, I mean, this is how also we come together, you and I, is that you have to sometimes dig into the deepest, most horrifying things
Yes.
in your psychological experiments or in your psychological terror that you've experienced in order to overcome them.
Exactly.
Like a scare bear hug.
Like a scare bear hug. Exactly.
That could be that. You can interpret that from. There's a lot of puns in that one.
Wait till my next T-shirt comes out. Scare bear hugs, $20 a pop.
You know, you can't really touch people anymore, so you actually couldn't have someone like really hug them. You know, you don't know if they're going to respond very well to that, I guess.
Hugging to Death, the new horror movie.
Hugging to Death.
Hug to Death.
Oh my God. There should be a movie called Scare Bears where it's like a bear, like, you know, like a guy who's a bear who just goes and just hugs people to death. Anyhow, that's just an idea you can take.
I mean, that pretty much, you just pretty much described the Alone Experience, I think, in one nutshell.
All you have to do is walk into the Eagle in LA and you might be hugged to death by a bear. I'm just saying.
The Scare Bears. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a fine line between a gay bar and a haunted house, you know.
Well,
very fine.
On the best of nights, how was your experience in Australia bringing this there? Because we love going to Australia. I mean, I think the audience is great. There's great music there, great food. It's just something about Australia. I mean, perhaps so far away, but yet so knowledgeable about culture, art, music, history, literature. That's really a welcoming place to go. You went twice to Australia.
We went twice. Yeah. One was a bit of a test run. You know, like we did a 1 weekend show and then we came back and we did a fuller run. It was amazing that they're up for anything. They're so open to these new types of experiences and new types of entertainment, and they're desperate for it. They love it. And so, yeah, we had a really good time. It was amazing. We hope to be able to go back there soon.
Me too. Maybe it could be a collaboration.
Oh,
yes.
God. Oh, God.
We're tired. What can I say?
The dad puns.
The puns are.
When the dad puns
they're alive.
Do you like dad puns?
No.
I love them. I love them.
I told you that joke. I probably when I was drunk.
Say it again.
How do you know when it's a dad pun?
How?
When it becomes apparent.
Oh boy.
Lawrence, are you into, you know, I'm a forensic freak. I'm into like true crime. Are you into that or not? Or are you more interested in like just, you know, horror for me is never scary. I don't care what it is. Even forensics, I mean, it just doesn't scare me. But I want to know about the methodology, how they get away with it, how they get caught. So I'm really into the true crime aspect. What are you into at this point? I mean, because horror, I mean, is there any new good horror?
Nah, you know, not really.
I mean,
really.
Do you filter it? Do you actually just still dive in and then you're like, I didn't like this.
Oh yeah, I'll watch anything. I'll watch anything horror related. I'm excited to see all of it. But yeah, forensics, you know, I used to kind of be into that, but not so much anymore. I kind of I'm more in thinking more internally these days, journeying into someone's own psyche.
Well, my favorite horror film, which is not really horror, but anybody I've exposed to it says, "Don't ever tell me about another film again," is Martyrs, the French film. Martyrs, and I recommend that, but only if you can really stand to understand the banality of true evil. And that is a really psychological film on like 3 different levels, but that's the only prop I'm going to give to that. You know, forensics, I've got people's teeth, hair, fingernails, just in case.
Did you like the movie Magic? The ventriloquist?
Oh, yeah. That was super creepy. I really liked that one. Yeah.
But so psychological. So I mean, you go back to Hitchcock. You go back to the classics.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Well,
I mean,
let's
the one.
look- go ahead, Lawrence.
The one that tortured me the most as a kid was The Exorcist. I was like forced to watch it by some deranged babysitter when I was way too young to watch it. And it
Right.
terrorized me as a kid, but that has become one of my favorite
Did you
all-time
revisit the
horror films.
Wasn't there like a kind of a director's cut one that came out like in the early 2000s, late 90s?
Yeah, I've seen all the versions. I
Well,
love them all.
A few things. First of all, Dahmer Monster, the 10-part series.
Yes.
Dahmer would show some of his victims Exorcist 3. I never saw Exorcist 3.
That's right. Yeah.
But then, Linda Blair did not see the full film until like going down the red carpet, and she was horrified because she had no idea really what was going to be portrayed. I thought she got into like heavy metal dudes or something. Love to have her on the show.
Yeah, she's
Linda
amazing.
Blair.
I've seen her live once introducing, I think, the director's cut of the film at like one of the big theaters here in LA.
As an adult.
As an adult, yes.
What do you think of Child's Play?
Wait a second. And again, The Exorcist is, I mean, even though it's the devil, demons, it's still a psychological horror film.
Exactly. It's about, it's what is inside you. Who are you? What is this thing? And in the book, if you read the books, there's this triad between, religion and self and, good and evil. And in the book, you don't really know what's happening. No one really does. They're not quite certain it's actually an
and there's been no more torture provided than by religion.
Yes.
What do you think of the theory that The Shining was about molestation, and that the kid, the whole Tony thing was him disassociating in the moments of his dad molesting him, and that Jack Nicholson was actually molesting him, and that whole scene when she's running around at the end when she makes the epiphany that this was what was going on the whole time, or that fellatio thing with the guy in a big bear suit, because the teddy bear was the theme through the whole thing.
Yeah,
and that was that. I think it's a pretty good theory.
And let's just review two things about The Shining that must be said. It ruined Shelley Duvall, who is now unfortunately homeless. And also, we have to say it again, Weasel Walter tried out for the child.
Yes.
Red rum.
No way.
For Danny, he did. They actually, Kubrick sent out national auditions, and he auditioned. He didn't get it.
And I'm sorry, but I occasionally look at him and I see that little boy going, red rum. Anyway, so what's up now, Lawrence? What's going on? What's the present here and there and here and now? And what do you want to do next? What's going on?
There's a lot. Tim, you mentioned something about not being able to touch people anymore. That is kind of a factor for the Alone experience. We do have people sign waivers that acknowledge that
Amazing.
hold harmless, release of liability, all that kind of stuff. But there is kind of much higher sensitivity of permission to be able
Everything.
to everything, grab and handle.
Fucking
it's
boring.
I know.
Yeah, Lawrence, I should send you this article that Matt Taibbi just wrote, because it's talking about the Van Gogh painting that was just attacking. That there is this sensitivity that people are so dedicated to utopian politics that are just absurd, and through that, the literature, film, art, music is all being attacked in this kind of quest for some kind of utopia. That's, what is this, like the fucking Iranian Revolution of youth here? I mean, so anyhow, I want to hear how you're dealing with this, because it is a reality.
Well, wait, I just have to say to Tim this, because that made me think of this. In the 60s and 70s, when there was really extreme performance out, like the Viennese Actionist, Ron Athey, Karen Finley, various other things, right?
Yep.
Like it was really deep, psychological, often physical, and impositional. Right now, the imposition comes from fucking politics. Like that's where they're saying, don't take the guns away because everybody should protect themselves, but of course everybody's getting killed. So now what is the imposition is not so much art, literature, music, it's fucking politics. It's sick.
I don't know how to navigate that through our show.
But you're doing it though, right?
No, our show is not ongoing. Our show is it's whenever we have a creative urge to do it. a concept, a reason to do it, and a space to do it. We it's not something that just goes and we just do it whenever. It kind of truly is our artistic expression. So there needs to be some sort of impetus that is driving the concept behind it.
Well, one thing I've always thought, Lawrence, is that maybe we need to get instead of trying to, I never have, expand my audience, maybe we have to reduce our audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I would prefer if one person only could support me to hear my stories, I'd be so happy. Like maybe that's what Alone has to become. It's more like subscription only, prescription only, very limited audience for those that need to go frickin' deeper.
These are all the ideas that we're kind of bantering around and have been bantering around for a while.
That'll be 10%.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's what we wanted. There really hasn't been, we kind of been dormant with it for a few years. We did actually do a show for Fangoria, which was a highlight at the roof in this theater during a horror film festival. We activated the inside of the theater while they were on the roof watching horror films. So that was great. But we really haven't done much since for a lot of reasons, pandemic being one of them. It's expensive. We need, financial support to do it. But coming out of the last couple of years, Devin, my partner, and I, and our other musical partner, Ryan Connor, we've just started writing music, and the show's based around music that we write. So the entire music score is composed by us, and we just got together. I've got this lovely place in Joshua Tree. Tim, you're more than invited to please experience it.
I mean, I love it out there.
So
I've been there. It's fantastic, and I shall return.
Yes, we went out there for a week with all of our gear and just wrote music. No expectations of what to do with it. No preconceived notion of what it should be. And
what were the instruments, Lawrence?
Guitar, synths, a lot of processing. We love, all these kind of processing toys. I've got this amazing vocal processing unit that pitch shifts my voice and does all kinds of crazy things. And Devin and I were in a band years ago called Scamper, and when I was younger, I just had this very concrete idea of what I wanted to do, and it had to be this, and it had to sound like that, and it was really kind of forced and contrived. And now we're just in this space of like, we want to be creative. We don't care about monetizing it. Let's just get together with no expectations and see what happens. And is this going to turn into another Lone experience, or is it going to be an album, or is it just going to be a one-off show that we put together? We're kind of playing with all those ideas and just kind of waiting to see, and also we're all three of us are employed in some way, either through freelance work or full-time work. So it's hard for us to find the time. But
Devin does a lot of interiors. Is he an interior designer? Is he an architect? What is exactly Devin?
He's a little bit more of he's a fine artist that makes his living doing a lot of murals and specific interiors for bars and restaurants. Not just, decorate my restaurant. He does very specific things, much more artistic things. So he's very busy with that. Ryan Connor is he's a audio engineer, and so finding the time, it's balancing again that work-life thing. And I'm drowning in fucking production. I can't do it anymore. It's just too much anxiety.
Have you ever thought of just opening your own club? I mean, because Alone is like, once a year or a few times a year, depending on the opportunity. But what about just having a more experiential post, because we are in the new prohibition. Yeah. Kind of underground, members only. I'm just putting this in your head because I want to go there. Club. I would gladly MC once a month, just some not volunteering, pay per view. It might come to that, and then eventually we might just have to format our own space.
Yeah, and that's kind of what was one of the initial ideas that fostered the Alone experience. And I think that's kind of maybe where we could be taking it to. It is almost like, is rather than paying your psychologist, you subscribe to the Alone experience with Miss Lunch every once in a while and come get your demons worked out.
Well, Lawrence, I love to work on those demons.
Of course.
Well, going back to your process and what you're doing, I mean, at the end of the day, and people have said this for a while. Johnny Carson always said this. It never works unless you are yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a crowded world. That doesn't mean I don't consider all the other constructs around me or all the other people around me, but you have to do the work to find that open door where you can be yourself. But still, at the end of the day, you got to be yourself. Otherwise, you're dependent on other motherfuckers, which is why would you want to do that?
Right.
But there's no actual satisfaction. There's no growth. I think.
Timothy, when you have, like I do, many selves. It's why I am more myself. Halloween is coming.
So Lawrence, do you dress up like? I mean, if one of your kind of like visions of what yourself was going to be, say maybe as from youth, was this Tom Savini makeup artist type. I mean, do you still live that dream on Halloween? Do you go all out with makeup and like crazy costumes?
No, I really don't. Oddly,
Okay,
I don't.
okay.
Again, it goes back to I'd rather throw the party than be at the party. For a good, 8 years, I was busy with the Alone experience on Halloween. So I didn't go to a Halloween party for quite a few years.
Lawrence, every time you see me, it's a Halloween party. I've been dressing in costume my whole life.
Any night, any one of our salons is a lovely Halloween party.
Thank you very much.
And if I do something, it's definitely going to be a lot more conceptual.
Well, wait, what was that video you showed me recently? Which was like was it like a 1940s party? That was so elegant. That it was a reception somewhere. You showed me a video of it.
I can't remember.
No, was it somebody's reception? It was that club that you were saying the woman let you have it for like a night.
Oh yeah. So
what was that?
That was actually my birthday party.
Hello, there was some costumes involved.
It was a speakeasy, underground casino with late night poker.
Well, we need
live
to take
band.
we need to take it over from her. It's obvious.
Exactly. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking at maybe expanding into with the Alone experience, some sort of customized experience for hire. To wow your rich friends. Hire us.
If you have any.
They're out there.
Oh, we gotta still looking.
So how much time do you do? What's the division between Los Angeles and Joshua Tree for you?
I'm in Joshua Tree probably 1 week a month.
Okay. A quarter of the year.
Yeah.
Unless you're traveling for work. Yeah.
But
exactly.
You need to go. Look, when you're dealing with high comprehensive production, numerology, managing everything, you need to go clear your head.
Yeah.
You need to go out there and clear your head.
Yeah, I bought that 10 years ago, and it was the best thing I've ever done.
So do you ever go in the heart of darkness of summer out there when it's really insane?
Of course. Yeah.
Do you prefer that? Or do you prefer that over the winter?
You know what? The summers have the best sunsets.
Okay.
As hot as it is. And then it's the high desert, right? There's elevation. So at 5 or 6 o'clock, even though it was 110 that day, and you just don't go outside, and our swamp cooler works amazingly well. Come 5 or 6 o'clock, there is this breeze. The sun breaks. There's this breeze that comes through. It's still, a 90-degree breeze, but the pressure lifts. And then you have this sunset that lasts for, 2.5 hours. And it's just magical. And it rewards you for suffering through the heat of the day.
As long as the meth addicts don't shoot up the property.
Yes, exactly. We fend them off. But spring's great because spring's the desert bloom. And so the whole landscape changes. Like, a lot of people think the desert's dead. It's so alive, and it just comes to life during the super bloom.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Frank Lloyd Wright, when he had moved to the desert, I mean, that was his whole point. It's like the nuances are different. You're not looking for the right things. And he fell in love with it. So, I mean, Palm Springs is actually way more brutal than Joshua Tree in terms of the heat and all that stuff.
Especially financially.
especially financially, and it's 10 degrees hotter. So people always say, "Oh, Joshua Tree, I don't want to go there. It's so hot." I'm like, well, it's 10 degrees cooler than Palm Springs.
Well, I mean, Tim shares this as well. I mean, Tim goes to the water. You go to the desert. Tim loves to go scuba diving, surfing. He goes to the beach. He goes swimming. You know, you have to find. So I go to Jellyfish Lake in my mind's eye. Trust me, look it up. But you know, you have to decompress.
You do.
When you have these high, you know, intense energy expending jobs, you have to decompress. Otherwise, you just go nuts. And we are nuts, but at a rather respectable level.
Yes. Becoming less respectable, though. Yeah.
I hope so.
It's a lot. You know, I'm at the point in my life now where I'm getting tired of making rich people rich by making these commercials for them.
Well, Lawrence, I'm right here. You can make a poor person rich.
Let's do it.
And I'm waiting.
Let's do it.
We have our own conspiracy coming. There's no doubt about that. What's interesting is, like, I was with Kid this week. And again, I've known Kid since he was 17. I've known my friend Rick Ramirez, who now works at Fox Network, who worked at Warner's Tape Library, who's now making pottery and Palm Springs. All of these creative people coming to me, and I wasn't much older, that it just makes a difference that you are all still in my life, because we came together and we've talked about this in the past, the connective tissue, for a specific creative reason. And we're still here. And also, thank you very much for being part of my documentary, Artist Depression, Anxiety, and Rage. I didn't even know. I mean, I can say this about almost everybody who's in it. Having no depression or anxiety, being paid for my rage, I was really moved by how many of my friends, because artists do suffer from these things. And I really thank you for being part of it.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's I've really kind of owned it in the past couple of years, the right to talk about it, because you know, I hadn't for years. It's, you know, I don't want people freaked out, or, you know, people worrying about me. But yeah, you know, we go through this, like, you know, anxiety is a very real thing, and it's not stress. It's not, oh, you're working too hard. No, it's something else.
It's a physical occupation. Yeah. And I think that's also why a lot of people have come to me, because not afraid to speak about anything, but also, I don't know how I feel like I'm the volcano that calms other people down. It's really weird. It's really fucking weird.
It is true.
Well, the first time I touched Tim Dahl, he couldn't believe how calming my effect was.
Wait, I'm not touch. You were not supposed to. Never mind. Cut that out. I actually did it. That was calming, and Lydia her excitement and her flamboyance is calming to me. So,
did you sign a waiver to be touched by her?
I definitely did not.
It was unexpected. I reached over and touched him, and it was like, whoa! It was like physical fluorescein.
I'm reasonable. I'm hysterical when I'm on my little comic rants, but I'm not hysterical in the clinical sense. So I can, and I have interpretation skills that are correct, if I may.
Lawrence, so. I believe you experienced his hysteria recently, but you've also experienced his rationality.
Exactly. I like seeing all sides of people.
Well, Lawrence, we've only hung a few times. You've seen some pretty varied sides of me, but I appreciate your acceptance. So that means a lot to me.
Lawrence, I would happily moon you now, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. So I think I'll just keep that. I'll keep sitting on it.
Keep sitting on it. Don't move.
Until I'm sitting on you, I'll sit on it. Anyway, Lawrence, I'm so happy to know you. We have a similar path in different directions. We keep going. We're relentless. We do not give up. We stick true, the same with Tim Dahl, to our ideals.
Yeah.
We are multi-fractional creatures. And we are not going to stop. And that's the beauty of knowing people like us for as long as we do. So I want to thank you for being on this, the Lydia and Spin, episode number 171. Lawrence T. Lewis, a man of many hats. He's wearing one now. If only you could see it.